Transformers is a franchise about two warring factions of robots that can change into cars, planes, and whatever the plot was trying to be. It's been around for nearly 5 decades, spanning a lifetime supply of toys, comics, and whatever the Netflix or Cybertron was trying to be.
Now, tell me you forgive me.
However, none of it would be around today if it wasn't for the original cartoon that gave us the characters we all know and love. Yes, I know there were technically Marvel characters first, but I never read those despite owning half of the characters from that. Despite the cartoon being beloved to the point where it affects how Transformers media is presented, from all of Prime's fake-out deaths to the iconography, it's plagued with a mountain of issues. Animation being one of them because all the characters were so off-model they were on-model, meaning every second that went by, any frame will look different from the last one. However, the thing that annoys me the most are certain continuity errors. Now, being a show from the 80s made for the sole purpose of selling toys, events and plot details are either forgotten about or just misremembered, leading to years of confused fans. Now I get it, it's mostly episodic, meaning you can watch any random episode and understand how the show works without watching previous episodes. However, even if that is still the case, I still require my shows to have a little bit of consistency, and concepts entering and leaving whenever they please is absolutely a part of that. Now, the show raises too many questions and not a lot of answers. So to get through all 3 seasons and the movie as quickly as I can, I'm only going to point out the ones that interested me the most, by using a little mental trick called headcanon to fill in the dots. But first, I need to explain what headcanon is, and before I do that, I'll have to explain what normal canon is. Well, to keep it simple, canon can be defined as material in a work of fiction that it's accepted as part of the ongoing narrative. For example, a TV show will have books that'll go in depth with a major plot point that the TV show in question will not have time to explain because it's too busy being the show, essentially making that book part of the show's overall story. Now, there are specific ways you can make a part of the story not canon. One way is to make it so different from everything else it can be labeled as its own universe, be so bad no one will take it seriously, or you can be intellectual cowards and make it so the characters don't remember it, usually because of time travel BS. Now, as for headcanon, that's a term used for unofficial thoughts of a piece of fiction fans believe to be true. Now, these can range from highly innocent things, or Kurt's relationship garbage that I refuse to touch with a 10-foot pole. There's also not a lot of evidence to support their own merit, hence why these thoughts only live in fans' brains. The G1 cartoon having those little bits and pieces to support some of the headcanons, it's just that Hasbro, Marvel, Sunbow, whoever, didn't think it was important enough to explain those points, merely thinking people would just buy the pretty toys on screen, and in their defense, it absolutely worked. Therefore, I decided to go deep into the show's lore and give my own answers to what's happening, because it's illogical to have real answers if you don't have a hypothesis for it. All the elements you'll get to know about the cartoon all get their start in Season 1.
Well, no shit.
Things like Megatron getting on Starscream for no reason, Starscream giving Megatron reasons to get on him, Prime being more of a dad than a commander, and Soundwave is Soundwave, so give us your money. As such, the seasons after will contradict this one the most. Like the Constructicons being normal Cybertronian residents who got robo-snatched into being evil instead of being built in a cave with a box of scraps. I personally believe there's more evidence pointing towards the former because there were more episodes pointing towards that theory. One example being in the episode Master Builders.
Back on Cybertron, we all admired your buildings, Grapper. They were works of art.
And the episode Secret of Omega Supreme, which shows them being good friends with Omega before Devastator tries to robo-smash him halfway, which explains Omega's talking patterns.
I'll say, what with all the trouble the Decepticons have been making, quit squirming. This is for your own good. No, strength insufficient. Cosmos required.
We'll find Cosmos and his energy source, then come back for you. Just don't move.
Sarcasm not appreciated.
Now, Megatron having this device may sound obtuse. In fact, you can rebuttal this thing with, why doesn't he use this after this episode? And then I'll rebuttal it with A, Omega will probably step on it as soon as he sees it, or B, one of the many red Autobots will try to blow up the damn thing after seeing the con insignia. So believing the Constructicons were good before they returned nefarious is easily acceptable to me, because they're also robots. Robots that can think and feel on their own, but they can still be reprogrammed. They should also have the rights to be proven innocent before guilty, but hey, who am I to judge? Plus, it can explain a lot of things, you know, unlike the appearance of the Season 2 cast in general.
Hey, Blitzwing! Thank you!
I briefly mentioned this, but aside from the original cartoon had an obsession with not introducing characters properly with a few exceptions. These characters aren't the worst example, but it just feels jarring to see these new characters pretend that they've been there since the very beginning and with no explanation to boot. But what if I told you they were foreshadowed?
Oh, a spot!
No, not that far back, but to the end of the first half of the three-parter Ultimate Doom, where Megatron's ready to push the button to bring Cybertron to Earth. Optimus stops him, and Megatron plays him by doing this.
If you don't, you will be responsible for Cybertron's destruction. Destruction? But there are still many inhabitants. Friends on Cybertron.
Now, with that line, I hope you were thinking of the idea of new toys, because Hasbro certainly did.
Folks, these robots are hot.
Nevertheless, it's plausible to say the Autobots for this year boarded Omega Supreme, landed in the wrong area of America, so send Power Glide to scope the area, just in time for his baseball catch scene in Prime Problem, then the rest of them show up slowly. So to make this effect work in the simplest way possible, I like to watch the first half of Season 2 in the production order, then watch the latter half in the release order. This makes it so you're not bombarded with the new characters all at once, and the Gambler can take place after play as it should. Just remember to use Desertion of the Dinobots as a switching point. Now, what about the other guys? The Coneheads are upgraded generic Seekers because Shockwave's a lowly mad scientist. Why wouldn't he change the look of his lackeys for kicks? And the Triple Changers were fortunate to be forged with 2 alt modes. Insert all the combiners in introductory episodes, and there you have it, every Season 2 character explained. Except for the Protectobots, who continue to be the where the did you come from king. And you know what, we're gonna throw Metroplex in there too, because his origins isn't explained either. Okay, that's somewhat of a farce, because if you lived in Japan, you got an exclusive to video episode named Scramble City, which details the construction of Metroplex, Blaster's cassettes, and the combiner limb swapping abilities, which they use at no other part of the cartoon's run, so we could just forget this entire thing existed. Plus, I prefer the idea of the Constructicons making Tripticon out of a random city they found and snuck into at the middle of the night just to be to humans, and you know what? It was well deserved. But yes, it's obvious that the Autobots would construct Blaster's kind of town between Season 2 and the movie. But the real question is, where would they get the resources, and would Earth allow it? Well, let me just answer that with a resounding yes. Magnus would bring materials from Cybertron, but not before Earth allows the Autobots to do this for all the good they've done. And as a bonus, they would reward them with the best first responder vehicles they could possibly get, and the Autobot scientists would create the team that would strengthen Autobot and human relations. Or find pre-made personality components, because Wheeljack wasn't going to have another Dinobot moment.
Me Grimlock no bozo, me king!
Now, you might think I'm making humanity look more generous than we really are, giving the Autobots free vehicles and an entire city to their name. However, I personally think these materials were rightfully earned after having an episode like Megatron's Master Plan happen to them. Transformers the movie was an absolute turning point in the cartoon's run. It was an action-packed rock and roll adventure of the summer that was also a passing of the torch. New friends were made and old enemies were reforged. It's a hyperactive thrill ride that doesn't stop with this luscious animation, kick-butt soundtrack, and a story that lives rent-free in the minds of any Transformers fans who come across it. And it is highly respected. But if a random person asks me to sum it up, I basically say,
I'm trying to remember. There were an awful lot of casualties that day.
if you don't find the idea of characters you got to know and love dying left and right to be appealing, I'll say it right now, you're giving this thing the trash ring. Yeah, no sugarcoating, most of the first year's cast died within the first half an hour with no fanfare, including Optimus Prime, whose death I don't need to elaborate on because everyone and their dog knows about it. So there's no need for the drama, for now.
Who said that? Who the said that?
So how were the Decepticons able to slaughter as many Autobots as they could? What was the difference between shooting someone in 1984 and 2005? And the answer is... anti-electrons they got off the black market. Because at this point, while they still had Cybertron, the Decepticons were just getting desperate. So they thought 605,400,000 Energon chips would be worth the waste if it meant killing the Autobots. So where did the seller get them if Unicron was still active? Look, the galaxy is a big place. He could have gotten them anywhere. Now the real question is, could this stuff really be that powerful to do, well, all this? Well, not in the weakened state, because in the episode Grimlock's New Brain, the Autobots get hit with this stuff twice and it only glitches them out. And because of Unicron's death, a majority of it had probably evaporated at the time, weakening its effect. But in the year 2005, they'd be powerful enough for Shockwave to implement the substance into the Decepticon arsenal and blow the circus right out of anyone who's hit by the stuff. Because that's more reasonable than believing the same bots who've been taking shots from the same dirtbags every day after school at 4 p.m. Eastern Time could suddenly drop like flies. Including the great Optimus Prime, who didn't shoot Megatron, getting himself killed on purpose because he felt bad for killing Frenzy. Alright, it was a joke. Just like the who's red or blue debate. Seriously guys, red is the color of anger, and frenzy is a synonym for angry, meaning Rumble is blue. It's slag not slug, and Unicron took Bombshell's charisma and Skywarp's loyalty to make Cyclonus. His armada is just a figment of the animator's ability to rush stuff out. The movie changed a lot of elements, and Season 3 was the result of that. We had a new leader in the form of Rodimus Prime, the Decepticons pulled a real world and mourned for the days of old, and the darkness spat out 5 faces. Unfortunately, not a lot of people stuck around to see it, whether it be the death of Optimus Prime or the downgrade in visuals. But I can rant about ACOM another day. You know, unlike the episode order. Season 2 can be excused because it was more episodic in nature, meaning most of those episodes were self-contained. Season 3 feels the same way, but has a semblance of Season 1 storytelling, where they had a story running in the background and it was up to the audience to figure it out. I'm not sure if there was a proper production order, all I know is that Season 3 just flat out has the wrong one. And how do I know it's wrong? Well, let's take a look at my favorite example, Starscream's Ghost. This episode shows how oil jet tanker Octane is on the run from the Decepticons because he tried to use Trypticon for world domination. Nothing wrong with that. Until you watch the episode after it, which exposed what he did in detail. And no, it doesn't start with one of those wait, how did I get here moments. It starts as normal like any ordinary episode, meaning the last episode you just watched spoils it exponentially. Starscream's Ghost also stars the Dune Hullabuggy Sandstorm, whose proper introduction takes place 11 episodes after the fact. No doubt this episode should have aired before any of these. So why didn't it? It's unknown if this had anything to do with the time crunch, so distribution of these episodes were mixed. Nevertheless, the mixed nature of this season sadly reveals the truth about most characters like Sandstorm and Octane. And that's the fact that half of the newbies are gimmick bots who star in one episode because their toys need to be sold. And unfortunately, most of them don't leave an impact. Okay, you have your exceptions like Skylinks, but let's be honest, who actually remembers Ryload? I only do because I got him for free after buying 3 of the mini-bots from a toy convention. Either way, the effort shows as most of the plots don't connect when they really should. So, what can we do about it? For future viewers, that is. Compressed story time, Hasbro released the entirety of the Generation 1 cartoon onto YouTube, meaning each video can be saved in your own special playlist. Please consider using this during your next viewing of G1. And if you're going to ask if I forgot money is, hey guys, last minute me here. So I was originally going to rant about how Money is Everything isn't canon because it confused me about the Terracons' origins, because they appear in Grimlock's New Brain along with the Technobots. But Money is Everything shows them being completely loyal to the Quintessons. But then my brain was like, oh wait a minute, they're the Quintessons. They could totally rig up a device to control them. Meaning the Terracons are like Defensor, a new combiner team that comes out of nowhere. Unless you want to say after Galvatron blew up Torculon, the web world itself took some of the surviving creatures, molded them into robot demons, and were sent to kill Galvatron, but I guess Galvatron overpowered them and they became loyal to him. Which, honestly, now thinking about it, is not a bad idea. Either way, my stance on Season 3 still stands, and to be truthful, it was a major drag because of it. Well, that statement was a bit of a downer, so before we close out, here's a lightning round of things I couldn't fit anywhere else. Snarl and Swoop were the smartest of the Dinobots. They only pretend to be dumb just to entertain Grimlock's BS. After betraying Galvatron, Blitzwing found Shockwave in a hidden lab, and they both try to find ways to reformat Galvs into Megs. They're taking their sweet time with it because they want to get the formula right. The Quintessons unknowingly made Vector Sigma because they wanted to upgrade their Cybertronian-making machines. Unfortunately, the AI developed a mind of its own, giving the robots personalities, leading to the Quintesson liberation. If you think Kiss Players is canon, you're sick, and last but not least, Pipes was a temporary leader for the Autobots during those episodes where Blaster was on Cybertron, because he's the best Autobot, and if you have a problem with that, you'll have to answer to these three. Transformers is one of the greatest examples of a retro cartoon. Though it has major issues, they aren't large enough to label the entire cartoon as awful. However, when you can see when things are clearly being rushed, you refuse to take what's on screen seriously. So you look through your mind or the internet to give yourself a proper answer. Others may think you're looking into your favorite thing too hard, but as entertainment enthusiasts, we strive for perfection in our masterpieces of fiction. And if we can't have that, we have to at least get some answers. However, if the ones given aren't clear enough, you gather the evidence and just follow the rules of the simple phrase,
Use your imagination.
But how do we fix the animation? Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Don't hire people that will do this on purpose, and don't hire executives that will accept it. Problem solved.